What's up, Running Out the Clock fans? This is your ROTC Ole Miss beat reporter, Chandler. Forgot my name there for a second. It's like 8:20 on a Tuesday morning, so whatever. We're not at 100%. It's fine. It happens. But yeah, I'm here this morning as always to offer up some thoughts clearer than a crystal chandelier in the grove. I'm joined here with the future five-star Judson, who is just kind of rolling around on the floor here with me this morning. He may offer some thoughts, but hey, it's a bye week, so I haven't really been in much of a hurry to get this out for this week yet. And also, I didn't write anything down. Normally, I kind of write some things down and share some thoughts so that I can kind of present a coherent argument or point for you, but I didn't do that today. I'm just kind of talking, and we'll see where it goes. But we are a couple of days removed from Auburn's 31-16 victory over Ole Miss, maybe 32. I don't know. Really, it was whatever to 9, and Ole Miss scored a garbage time touchdown to make that score look a little bit better. But yeah, to say that was a frustrating game is maybe the understatement of the season. If you've watched Auburn all year, you thought, hey, these guys are kind of ripe for the picking, and really in the first half they looked like they were. As much as the Ole Miss defense has been terrible and maligned and just not worth watching at all. The Rebels actually looked decent on defense. I was about to say good, but then I realized that's not accurate. The Rebels did enough on defense in the first half. I believe the score going into halftime was 10-6, and you kind of felt like, hey, if the offense could get going, we might be able to do this. We might be able to pull this off. And as the final score would indicate, that did not happen. So really, this game I think was lost in the first half, and that's very frustrating because, like I said, the defense played well, but the offense just never really seemed like it could get going. I'm pulling up some stats right now to kind of see because I think statistically unless I'm just making this up right now, I think statistically the Ole Miss offense played fairly well. From a getting yards standpoint, and Jordan Ta'amu certainly had a decent game, and that's kind of what you needed. But they could not score. They couldn't score when they got in the red zone. They couldn't score really at all, and that was far and away the most frustrating thing about it, was because this whole offseason, we heard about how this was an elite offense. This was an offense that was going to score points in bunches. And yeah, I got the stats right here. Jordan Ta'amu was 27 for 46. So you'd like a little bit better, completion percentage, but he threw for 324 yards and a touchdown. And AJ Brown had 10 catches for 155 yards and a touchdown. Those numbers are huge. Like, those are good numbers. You should be able to put up more than 16 points. And I think if I'm not mistaken, Ole Miss ran 86 plays and was able to get 16 points. And that's just not going to cut it. You really kind of thought that after the Arkansas game, you might be seeing a little bit of a change in offensive scheme. You lost DK Metcalf, which hurts. There's no way to kind of gloss over that loss. He's probably the if not the best, the second best player on your offense, and now he's out. He was your true deep threat because he could just kind of go down the field and get those jump balls and win a lot of one-on-ones, and he's gone. And it didn't seem like the offense really adapted at all. Last week we saw, or the week before against Arkansas, we saw a lot of over the middle routes. We saw a lot of draws and design runs, and just a lot of different things that we didn't see against Auburn. And I mean, I don't know. It's just it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch week after week, and to even kind of get a little bit of hope um, hey, we're fixing to bounce back. We're putting this together. We're doing well, and we're not. It's just not happening. And so really, the game was. I mean, really, honestly, the game was over at 10-6, which is kind of inexcusable with these offensive weapons. But that's where we are. I do want to give a big shout out to Isaiah Woolard. He only got 3 carries. We got 3 carries for 21 yards, and love that guy as a fellow MAIS, formerly MPSA graduate. If anybody listens to this, very few people will get that reference. But anyway, Woolard has played well in his minutes. I'm not saying in his snaps. I'm not saying he needs to get more touches than Scotty Phillips, because he doesn't. But Woolard has been a very good change of pace back, hard player. Does a good job pass blocking. I mean, he really does a lot of things really well for a guy that a lot of people maybe thought wouldn't even be on the team at this point. So good for him. Major shout out there. And now we look forward to the rest of the season. Ole Miss is sitting at 5-3. They are 1-3 in the SEC, and you got 4 games left. You've got South Carolina comes to Oxford. You go to Texas A&M. You go to Vanderbilt, and Mississippi State comes to town. And after watching the way that Auburn struggled to run the ball, Auburn struggled to do anything offensively this season, and after watching them not struggle at all to do stuff on offense, I mean, you realistically wonder, does Ole Miss get another win this season? And I have a hard time. I mean, sure, you go to. I mean, Vanderbilt's not good, even though they've played some teams close. They're not very good. South Carolina's not very good. You know, I, I'm still not overly impressed with Mississippi State. I think from a talent or a scheme standpoint, but sorry for sniffling. That kind of started right as I started recording, so I'm sure that's going to make for great podcasting. But no, I mean, the Ole Miss Mississippi State game is just the kind of game that you're going to send Nick Fitzgerald off doing what he does well, and that's just running for hundreds and hundreds of yards. I mean, if Fitzgerald has 200 yards of rushing, I won't be surprised. In fact, it probably would be. I'm pulling up the stats on that now. But the 2016 Egg Bowl, where I believe Mississippi State won 55-20, and yeah, I got it right here. State won 55-20, and if you check the box score, Fitzgerald only threw for 109 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he ran for 258. And you also had Eris Williams running for 191. And, Eris Williams has been a very effective back for Mississippi State, but he's not really a guy that's explosive at all. And he's got, 200 yards rushing. And, that's going to happen again in Oxford on Thanksgiving Day. And there's really nothing anybody can do to stop that. So, it's just really frustrating to watch going forward, to watch an offensive coordinator and an offense specifically that refuses to adapt. I mean, look, I don't want to be the guy that's sitting behind a microphone with an audience of, I'm sure, like 4 people, if that. I don't want to be that guy calling for jobs or saying people need to be fired or whatever. But it just kind of comes back to what I've been saying all year. I mean, this is not the staff that's in place is not Coach Luke's staff. It's not the staff that he would have built. I don't think this is the offensive scheme that he wants to run. And so it just becomes more and more clear each week that changes have got to be made. And changes from top to bottom have got to be made. I mean, you just got to have new blood. And I think that's the biggest whiff that the Ole Miss administration has with hiring Luke, is that, well, people like Matt Luke, nobody hates him. I mean, everybody's thankful for the way that he played at Ole Miss, and his dad and his brother, and I mean, all that stuff. I mean, there have been a million game day segments or think pieces or whatever on that. And that's awesome. That's great. And it's certainly not a negative to have a coach who loves Ole Miss, but he was brought back he was brought on as the full-time coach to try to regain or try to maintain some sort of family tie or continuity or something with the previous administration. And um, you missed the chance to have the hard reset that you needed. Um, I would have loved to have seen Coach Luke go to a smaller school, work there for a few years, learn how to run a program, learn how to build a team, and do those kinds of things because he's never been a head coach before. And then if that works out, maybe one day later down the road you bring him back. But 5-3 and struggling against Alabama, Auburn, and LSU, and realistically struggling against a terrible Arkansas team, but getting the win. Realistically, those things look different if the fan base kind of goes into the season knowing, hey, this is a rebuild. We've got to start from ground zero. And you know what? If players transfer, and don't get me wrong, I love AJ Brown. I love Greg Little. I love those guys. DeMarcus Lodge. You run down the names. Like I have no fault with the players whatsoever, but if you change coaches and you go a different direction and a few players leave, I mean, all the guys I just mentioned are only that they're leaving after this year anyway. So, you save one season with these really good players to go 5-7 versus they all transfer. You still probably go 5-7. I don't understand the decision, and I understand the decision even less as the weeks go on because if you look at the pictures from the crowd, the crowds are just getting smaller and smaller. And even though people said the atmosphere against Auburn, the weekend buildup, everything kind of around the game was good. I mean, you see these pictures of empty stands. I was watching the game with some friends here in Tuscaloosa who don't have any Ole Miss ties, or they're Alabama people, whatever, and they were just shocked at what the crowd looked like. And that's not going to get better. It's just not, and especially now this season where the Egg Bowl is going to be played for absolutely no stakes whatsoever. I don't know. So it's really frustrating, and it's just kind of becoming increasingly just kind of an whatever. I'll watch the game on TV. I don't have any desire to go to Oxford to go and watch the game and be there for any of that. And so I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to try to explain what's going on, to try to figure out what it is, because it's just a top down disenfranchisement, malaise, disinterest, whatever you want to say. And I don't know. I don't know where it goes from here. It's really frustrating, and I know it's really frustrating for a lot of people because I talk to a lot of people. I talk to the rank and file fan, like not the people who can afford to just take the family to Oxford every weekend, but the people who've got a couple of kids, and going to Oxford is always a big sacrifice, and people who don't have season tickets but want to get back as much as they can, and just a lot of kind of the rank and file fan is really, really disenfranchised and really, really disinterested right now. And that's a big problem. That's a bigger problem than losing. Losing helps with that, but there's just something under the surface going on at Ole Miss right now that just a lot of people are very, very turned off by. So it's frustrating. I don't really have anything to offer this morning other than just saying that and kind of venting some thoughts a little bit. But we sit here. It is October 23rd. We are not many days, maybe 17 days, 18 days or so from the tip-off of basketball season. And it does seem like, even though I think people are wise to kind of temper their expectations for this season, it's exciting to look at the energy that Coach Davis has brought to the program so far. Andy Kennedy laid a great foundation over the last 12 or 14 years, however long it was, 12 years, I think. Laid a great foundation for the program, and now I think Kermit Davis is going to come and build on that. You look at the recruits he's bringing in, just a buzz, national buzz around the program. And this is for a program that's picked to finish last in the SEC. And if I had to pick, I'd pick them a little higher than that, but certainly not higher than 10th. And so there's something on the horizon to get excited about. And even as we kind of look and say, hey, look, this year's kind of a freebie. We're going to have fun. But that's the advantage of going in and getting the hard reset, of going in and saying, we're bringing in a new staff. We're going to recruit differently. We're going to approach the fan base differently. We're going to do all these kinds of things differently. And it's paying off early. I mean, you've got some excitement around the program. You've got some good non-conference games coming up. You've got a lot of buzz and excitement on the recruiting trail, and people are excited about basketball, even coming off a terrible season last year. And I think that again, that's where I think the Ole Miss administration dropped the ball. Was you could get some excitement, you could get kind of that honeymoon period for a new football coach that Matt Luke doesn't get. And it's not that he doesn't deserve it. It's not that that's necessarily even fair to him, but it's just the reality of the situation. So anyway, Ole Miss is off this week. Thankfully, I don't have to get up at 11 and watch us lose again, which is very frustrating. But whatever, we'll see. The season rolls on, and be sure to tune in next Monday for our weekly episode of Running Out the Clock. Again, I am Chandler. I don't know. I'm using a new microphone, so I don't know if you've heard him or not. But if you've heard the baby in the background, he is the future 5-star. And for both of us, signing off. Have a wonderful day. And like I said, give us a listen next week for our main show. If you haven't listened to this week's show, give that a listen. Subscribe. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And talk to you next week. See ya.